Hey, it's Katherine, Norland. For the last few years, whenever Black History Month came out, when that time of year rolled around, I would think, man, I should really do a video and share about some of the mentors that I've had over the years who were African American and how they have changed my history over the course of my life and personally helped mold me and influence me to become the person that I am today. And I don't know, I guess I was nervous to do it and I hesitated because some of what I'm going to share is very vulnerable and personal, and frankly I didn't want to mess it up, and I wanted to be able to give a tribute that would be say everything in the best way, the way my mentors deserve to be tributed to. So today I'm going to share about one of them that has made the most profound impact on my life when I moved to Hollywood to pursue my acting career. And honestly, I don't even know where I would be today without this man. I don't even know where to begin to talk about the impact Marshall Ferguson has had on my life and the immense honor and privilege it is to be able to interview him a few years ago. And I'm going to be cutting parts of that interview in here so you can get a glimpse of what a magnificent human being this was. Even just get a peek at his joyful sense of humor that would just lighten up the mood of any critical person.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I know I'm beautiful.
He had this way of igniting this fire within you, to speak life over you in a way where you just could no longer doubt yourself. It was impossible. After he spoke his truth and his wisdom from this depth that seemed to be so much deeper than his human experiences, it was like he had this knowing about people that could have only come from God. He just knew things about you, and he would say things that would leave you astonished.
What most people tell me I'm good at is reading them and knowing things about them before they even have a chance to even tell me. And they feel like that's the most talent I have, that I've been blessed by God with that. You don't know what a compliment that is to me, because it's not me. It's not me. I have no knowledge of what I do. I have no knowledge of when God has given me a gift to pick something out of the clear blue sky and say it.
He had been able to do that with me, and as far as I know, every single friend that I had introduced him to. I would spend hours daily at his office in Santa Monica when I first met him. I would just sit in his office and just glean wisdom, and I would lose all track of time. I mean, I had the expired meter parking tickets to prove it.
Most important to me right now are for people to wake up and realize that they are in charge of their destiny and that they are to listen to their own inner conscience. And if they did that, they will always have the right answer 99% of the time.
I guess you could say he was the first self-help guru I ever followed before I ever knew about those kind of people or read a self-help book or had taken a seminar or a class or online course like I like to do now. I was getting it straight from the source, like up close and personal. And I don't think he saw himself as any kind of a guru. I think he just really opened himself up and allowed God to move through him in the most unselfish way. He was this vessel of truth and light. If you were there to witness how he interacted with people and he could just pull them out of the darkness and just speak to them in that place inside their soul that you never told anyone about, and he would pull out of you more than you knew existed in you or you were capable of. It was so profound.
Well, they said what most people tell me I'm good at is reading them and knowing things about them before they even have a chance to even tell me, what's what's going on in their life and how I can just come up and tell them about things and it hit directly to them. And they feel like that's the most talent I have, that I've been blessed by God with that.
So I'm going to share a tribute with you that I wrote about him on my Facebook page in 2019, just to give you a glimpse when I had better words formed. Here's what I said. I was a lost young lady, searching for an umbrella of hope while soaked to the bone with doubts. And in the early 2000s, this man spotted me from across the room at a Hollywood networking party. I was dressed like a starlet, trying to impress, just trying to really hide how out of place and unworthy I felt. When he came up to me and our eyes met, he saw into the depths of my soul. Without so much as a hello or any sort of pleasantries, he told me exactly what I was feeling and thought about myself with no outside indication from me. I began to cry on the spot. He could tell things about me that I never told a soul. I talked about this in my online course called You Are Worthy, and I will share an excerpt of that here. I couldn't face who I was. Yet somehow, through prayer and reading the Word of God, I was able to get over my fears enough to take a chance and move to Los Angeles, because I felt in doing so, I was being obedient to the call God had on my life for me to become an actress. But when I moved here, there was still a lot of masks I was wearing. I was covering up who I really was, covering up that I was sad, covering up how I felt about myself. And on one occasion, at an entertainment industry networking event at this swanky hotel, I was dressed to the part. I looked like an ingenue. I had on my smiling, confident, happy mask, and I floated through the room trying to make contacts that might lead to acting roles. And I met a man named Marshall Ferguson. And after only a couple of moments of exchanging small talk and pleasantries, he stared me in the eyes and he asked me, "Why do you hate yourself so much?" That question shook me to my core. Here I was, almost 2,000 miles from that acting class in Minneapolis, and this stranger, who was a Hollywood talent manager, somehow knew my secret. A secret I hadn't repeated since that day in acting class. I don't know how many hours we talked that day and the days following, but God sent him into my life to be the mentor I needed to begin the process of shaking me out of my low self-worth issues. And that is how I met Marshall Ferguson. When I met him, I was this baby flower, freshly cut out in the big bad world of Hollywood. And I was this tightly closed bud, too fearful to open up and bloom and be the flower that I was. I was too insecure to show my beauty or let anyone near to smell my fragrance. And he saw that. And he was intent on helping me change so that I could grow to be the person that God designed for me to be. Within the first week of meeting him, he gave me 2 extremely difficult assignments. One, which is not unheard of in this industry, was for me to take a picture of myself in a bikini and send it to him. Yuck. Which I was mortified to do. But even worse was the second assignment, because it involved me confronting what I thought was my biggest enemy, the mirror. What he told me I had to do every day for the next 2 weeks was stand in front of the mirror naked. And I had to say, "I love you," to the person staring back at me. And yes, I had to do it with the lights on. I had to stand there and become familiar with everything about myself that I didn't like, that I thought was wrong, unproportionate, chubby, bulging, misshapen, and scarred. And I had to repeat over and over, I love you. I love you. And try to do it with my eyes open. I love you. 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 And I had to keep saying it each day until I believed it. And he had some unorthodox ways of doing things. But he always knew exactly what each individual person needed. That would be the tipping point for them to help them get to the next level of realization, to stop their limiting beliefs. He was the first person to help me see myself the way God sees me, and to realize I did have a lot to offer to the world, and that I wasn't some hopeless, unworthy, lost cause. And from that day we met at that networking event, and for years later, he became my mentor. At the time, he was a successful Hollywood manager and former agent. And of course, I don't know all of his clients or all the accolades. I do remember him mentioning that he managed Kim Fields, who played Tootie from Facts of Life.
That's what I was afraid of. I guess you've all noticed that for the past few days I've been head anchor girl around here. And it's been heaven.
Judy, you're dragging your anchor.
And Emmanuel Lewis from Webster.
That's it. I didn't come out here to be insulted.
Where do you usually go?
Young man, did you happen to see my last TV special?
I hope so.
That's it.
Okay.
And although he was this talent manager and agent, for me, he was mostly my counselor, my confidant, and my friend, because he knew things about me I didn't have the words to articulate to another human being. I finally felt seen. I finally felt like I was able to share with someone without fear, without judgment, without being looked down upon. Wow, if you can find a human being like that to be your friend, cherish them, really. What do you love about your life?
That I'm free. I'm able to be me.
Marshall wanted to see me succeed, and he didn't want anything from me in return, which was so different than a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing that I had met in Hollywood over the years. More on that in my upcoming book about Hollywood and all my experiences here. I'm hoping that book's going to be out in October, so look for that. But when Marshall told you things about you, when he told you things that you could improve or do better, it's because he wanted to see you become better, to see you become your authentic self and use your true talents to the fullest. He'd tell you, like, straight out, no holding back.
Ain't no way you gonna get me ever that messed up in life. Never get me that messed up. I love you, I appreciate you, I think you're doing a lot of good stuff, but never will you have me doing the crazy things that you're doing. No, that's just pure insanity what you're going through right now.
One of the things that really astounded me about him was that he was never selfish with his time. I'm telling you, the hours and hours that he poured into my life weekly, just cutting away at my insecurities and doubt like a hot knife passing through butter. You would think I was the only client he had because he was always there for me whenever I needed him, which was a lot. And when I mentioned to him that I wrote poetry, he didn't just go, oh, that's cute, or that's nice, because in Hollywood, that's not really going to be an asset or something that you can market or sell. At least that's not been my experience. Like many of the managers and agents I had along the way, they weren't interested. They weren't interested in anything that couldn't be monetized. Or, maybe they just say something like, oh, that's nice, or maybe like put it on your resume in your special skills section. No, but when I told him that I wrote poetry, he didn't just ask to hear one or two of them. He insisted that we meet and that I read to him every single poem I had ever written. And that was hundreds of poems that would never, ever see the light of day, that I would have never shared because they weren't good enough. I knew that because I wasn't good enough. At least that's how I saw myself until I met Marshall. And over the next few weeks, we sat in coffee shops, in his office, in diners, on a blanket in the park, and I just poured out my life through these poems, the tears, the pages, the years. And Marshall did something that no one else could have. He convinced me that my poetry needed to be shared with the world, that I couldn't keep it locked away in catacombs, but that people needed to hear what I had written, which never would have occurred to me. This was like my private thing that I did in my darkest moments to make sense of the chaotic and confusing world around me. And he said I couldn't hoard this gift from God, that it wasn't meant to be tucked away, it was meant to be shared. And he convinced me that others would even benefit from it.
And then I'm going to read one from my book, Poetic Prescriptions for Eternal Youth. This is called, and this is about self-love. This book was my memoir, journey through poetry, from how I went from self-hate to self-love by finding out what God had to say about me. This is called So What? We All Get Old. So what? We all get old. That's just the way it goes. There's billions being spent, not letting our age show. But if we fix our face, the next step is our neck. We race against the clock. Our hands have gone to heck. Don't let me age one bit! Sometimes I often beg. My sexy six-pack's gone and turned into a keg.
It took me 7 or 8 years to get over those doubts I had and finally get the help of another mentor, which maybe I'll talk about in another video another time. But that also helped me bring my book, Poetic Prescriptions for Pesky Problems, to fruition. My first book that came out, I put him in there in the acknowledgments, and here's what I said to him. Endless gratitude needs to be expressed towards Marshall Ferguson, who picked me out of a crowd of people, encouraged me, and showed me how to love myself, coached me for many hours, sometimes through lots of tears. He convinced me to pull my poetry out of my personal catacombs and dust it off and show it to the world. He was the major contributor to my resurrecting the dream I didn't even know existed until now. So when my book started to come out, even though he was older and even living in a nursing home at this point, he still wanted to hear what I was doing and wanted to help me. He wasn't one to talk about his pain or what he was going through, even though while we were here shooting this interview with him, nurses were coming in several times and checking on him, checking his vitals, giving his medicine, giving him his shots. It was really, what are you working on? How can I help you? I just told him I'd put together another book and what I was doing to try to promote it. And you can just see the way he listens. Not like he's half listening, but really invested in what you're up to and wanting to help. Like word of mouth, I made business cards I'm handing out and putting it on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff.
Well, you should probably hold a meeting one day where all the people that have read it and what they think about it, and you're going to have them get up and give a testimony about the book. Now to me, that's going back to old ways, that most people don't go. And it's much more effective, because if it happened in the beginning, it was the right way to happen. So, it'd be good just to get it out there and ask that question.
When I battled self-worth issues for years, he was the first person that got me to believe in myself and to know that I had worth. He brought me out of my shell and he taught me how to love myself. And I became a better person from having him in my life. I can only imagine the scores of people whose lives were changed by Marshall. There was no small talk with him. He was always one to go to the heart of the matter and really shine the light on areas that I would have rather left in the dark. But he forced me to look at things I didn't want to look at. When he was with you, it was like nobody else existed. He never checked his watch. He never said, "It's getting late, I have to go." If I was having a dilemma and there were more areas to work through, we weren't leaving. We weren't leaving until my soul had been settled. This painfully shy, insecure person turned into a confident powerhouse. From your tutelage, your depth of caring, and how much you handled things with humor would lift the heaviness. It was the perfect prescription I needed.
Let me just take one look at the camera.
Don't take no look at the camera. Take a look at me. See how pretty I look.
I am so grateful to have had you part of my life. The difference you made cannot be articulated. The world is better for having had you in it. And I will miss you, my kind, gentle, giving, selfless, funny as I'll get out friend. You weren't just a manager, a mentor, a friend. You were family.
Excuse me?
Yes? You've got popcorn.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thanks, Timmy. See you later.
My legacy will be that I love God, and I was a true believer. No matter what people say, I'm a true believer in God.
That's it?
Yo.
Unless you have something to add.
No.
Any last thoughts? Anything
No.
I didn't ask you that you wanted to say?
No.
Okay.
I think that was complete.
Now I'm going to show you some footage from an interview I did with him, and I really hope that you'll stay around and watch this little slice of Black history about the history of a man who forever changed my history.
Is the lighting right?
Lighting perfect.
Beautiful. Where you were born and when?
Okay, my name is Marshall Ferguson. I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1945 to the parents of James Harrison Ferguson and Cindy Williams Ferguson.
Briefly tell me about your ancestry.
My ancestry is darky, and I was born a darky. No, I was my brief ancestry is Black American. We come from, well, there's still a discussion. Are we partially African and let me see, it's African and well, I can't even think of the name of it. Irish. We're African Irish, and we carry that identification with us. My grandfather, or my great grandfather, was white. He was white Irishman. My great grandmother was a jet black African woman, and they met and they got married and stayed married, I think, 56 years. And that's where my father came as a grandchild to one of their kids. And we've been known as the Ferguson. They used to call us Irish potatoes, but we're known as black and black and Irish. Yeah, that was a hard one to get out.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, I had 6 brothers, and I have 3 sisters. And that made a family of 10. But one of my sisters died at infancy, which her name was Peggy Sue. And my brothers was all alive and stayed alive until they was all past adulthood. My father was a welder at Link Belt Foundry, was there for 38 years. Yeah, he was a real worker.
Did your mom work?
What?
Did your mom work?
No, my mother never worked. That lazy bum.
Oh, or she was busy raising 10 kids.
Yeah, she was raising kids. No.
So you think your mom was lazy?
My mother was lazy because she didn't have more kids, No. My mother was a good Christian woman. Well, every day in my life it was been with my brothers and sisters. Everything we did together as a family. We played basketball, sports, but the most fun memory I can was where we sang. And I was always singing. I always sang. That's something I couldn't get away from. I was known as a singer because my oldest brothers and sisters were singers too, and they used to sing with the Lionel Hampton, the band leader, and also with Duke Ellington. My oldest brother Nar sang with him. So we would always sang. We was on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour, and we sung. We were known for singing. So that's been all my life. One that I can remember more than anything else was a whipping I got. And the whipping I got was because I cut up real bad that morning in school. And my mother asked me when I got home for lunch, well, what happened today at school? I said, oh, nothing. Nothing unusual happened. Oh, no, nothing. Were you good? Oh, yes, very good. So she said, okay, send me on back to school. And I'm running up and down the cloak closet. Cloak closet where you hang your coats. I'm just running up and down one end. Mrs. Smith will come to that end, and we'll run down to the other end. And when I'm running down to the other end, I see my mother coming up the stairs. And when I saw my mother come up the stairs, I stopped real quick and walked into class and sat down. And Mrs. Smith said, oh, This is Mrs. Ferguson. This is Marsha's mother. We are glad you're here because Marsha really been acting up. Isn't that right, class? And they all say, yeah, you know how the kids are. So my mother got up and gave a little 1-minute speech. She said, I don't know about other mothers, but I'm going to take Marsha downstairs now. I'm going to whip his behind. She said, come here, Marsha. So I come to. She said, you let the class know you're going to get disciplined for this, for acting up in school. My mother brought 2 switches with her, and she whipped mine behind good. I mean, real good. I mean, she roasted that chicken as best as she could. But it taught me a lesson. No matter where you're going, no matter what you're doing, you're going to act right in the Ferguson family. If not, you're going to get disciplined wherever you are. So that was one of my greatest memories. Believe it or not, it's one of my best memories because I knew my mother was serious business.
Were there any unusual circumstances about the time, place, or conditions when you were a child?
Oh, a lot of things was unusual. Well, first of all, slavery was not 100% in effect, but the treatment of minorities and blacks was all the way in effect. So if you were a child, you knew that you were a black child. No matter what, you knew that. And the way they treated you was the way you knew it and felt it so strongly. How did I know I was a black child? Well, first of all, the first reason I knew I was a black child, there was a fighter named Joe Louis. And Joe Louis was the champion. And we couldn't root for Joe Louis. You know, if we rooted for Joe Louis like we did Muhammad Ali, it was like, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. It would create a problem because he was a black champion. And they wanted to kill our spirit by stopping us from being proud of Joe Louis. But that's the first time I really knew that I was black, and used to notice that we couldn't really root for anybody black that was a champion. So we could not stand up and say, yay, you know, Don. We just wouldn't do it. We know there was too much flack for doing that, so we wouldn't do it. We would get away from them like 3 or 4 blocks and then holler, yay, Joe Louis, yay, Don Jordan, or whoever. But we would be a distance away from it because they would try to throw rocks at us and fight us for that.
The whites would?
Yeah.
Were you in a segregated school or an integrated school?
Believe it or not, I was in an integrated school. And that's another thing. It's hard for people to understand. How can you be in an integrated school? Your father wasn't wealthy, but yet you always maintained and always went to an integrated school. And that's just something that my parents believed in. That, you know, you have to live with everyone. And so we went to a very, very integrated school. That was in the year of 1952. Let me see, yeah. I was born in 45. I was 6 years, 51 to 52. I started and been all my life in integrated school.
Do you feel you were treated any differently?
Not really, because the teachers back then were really loving, caring, compassionate people. And they taught in integrated school because they wanted to make a difference, and they did make a difference.
What are 2 or 3 fond memories you have of growing up?
Oh, God, I got more than 2 or 3, but I'll tell you 2 or 3.
Tell me as many as you want to tell me.
Well, my fond memories are my family. My fond memories are the discipline we had and the respect that we had. And how my father was a man of discipline. That he would tell you how to do it, and then if you didn't do it that way, you caught hell later for not doing it that way. and he will whip you behind and make you do it that way. So my memories have always been my family. Great, great, great memories growing up.
What schools did you attend?
What you mean? Well, which school did I attend? I mean, from the
Schools, plural.
elementary schools
All of them.
all right, let me start off. I'm going to shock you. I attended School 32. It was the first public school I've ever was in my life. It was a mixed school. And I went there from the kindergarten till the second grade. And everybody in the school was white. Even the painting on the wall was white. Everything was white, okay? And I remember this real pretty girl named Patsy that was gorgeous. And I had an instant crush on her, and I didn't think nobody should talk to her but me. And so I made a point to make a move for her. And she liked somebody else, and I liked her. And so I said, I'm still not stopping. And to make a long story short, she ended up liking me. So the teacher went to her and told her, don't show me no friendship, be friendly towards me at all. Whatever she do, just be very curt and short to me. And so she did that. She did what the teacher said. And I remember I got mad at her and felt hurt because she didn't like me. And I should have known, being a little black boy from Indianapolis, I couldn't have her. And so what did I do? I ended up, okay, well, I'll show you. I'm going to get somebody else. Lo and behold, I got somebody else, another white girl named Felix. And she was a doll too. And she liked me because she thought I was crazy and funny. So she really liked me. And she would, at recess time or lunchtime, she would always get close to me. And so we became a thing in school. And that's what happened. I ended up with Felix, and she ended up liking me, but I ended up not liking her that much because Patsy didn't pay any attention to me.
How old were you?
I think I was 6. Yeah, 6 years old, yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite teacher and why?
Oh, God. All my teachers were my favorite. I mean, I had the love of all my teachers. And I loved every teacher I had. I mean, there was no talking back or getting smart or rolling your eyes or showing me the anger you didn't like something you didn't do. I just didn't do that. I come from a very Christian, stout, strong family. And so I always showed my teacher the utmost respect. And in return, they showed me the respect of love and being like a parent to me.
What did you do after high school? Did you attend college?
No, I went straight from high school into the Army. I was a real diehard soldier because I took ROTC in high school, which meant I was advanced up in a higher grade in the military. So which means I was a PFC when I went in. Most people was just E1s.
How long were you in the service?
37 years and 22 months. No, I was in the service for 2 years. When I was in the service, I would sing for the officer club and the NCO club, and I was considered an entertainer. And by being in the service, being an entertainer, I would go to the officer clubs, the NCO clubs, and I was kind of known around the Bears for being a private that was involved in all these different associations. How I met my spouse was my brother was going out with a girl named Karen Bailey, and my wife's name is Terry Bailey, which is her sister. Anyway, I went over there and stood around for about 25, 30 minutes, and I left. My brother said, well, she didn't even like you at all. I said, man, don't be crazy. I said, girl dug the hell out of me. I said, I'll prove it to you, but I'll go back out with her this week. He said, oh, man, come on now. Don't let your ego mess you up. I said, That girl crazy about me. Now, I never knew that going back out with her would mean I'll be stuck with her for life. But I guess I was stuck with her for life because we went out 2 days later and never been apart since then.
How old were you then?
19.
What occupations have you been employed with? What are all the different things you've done to make a buck?
Oh, I can't tell you that. Oh, Lord, you quit interviewing me right now. The most interesting part of my life, and I used to counsel people that was really crazy. And God blessed me that I could talk to any kind of person and bless them, and they'll write letters and come see me and talk to people about me. And matter of fact, my biggest hip hip hooray crowd were people I was talking to just on an everyday inspirational thing that was nothing really assigned to me, except they just come into the meetings and I would just talk to them, and they'd be so excited that I talked to them that they would just tell people about me.
What are your favorite hobbies or pastimes?
My favorite hobbies and pastimes, believe it or not, are listening to gospel music. If I had the choice to do more of something, I would say it'd be praying and laying hands on people, because it's the immediate gratification you see from someone. It's nothing they can do to hide it, and no matter how they try to hide it, it just beams out of them. What most people tell me I'm good at is reading them and knowing things about them before they even have a chance to even tell me. And they feel like that's the most talent I have, that I've been blessed by God with that. You don't know what a compliment that is to me, because it's not me. It's not me. I have no knowledge of what I do. I have no knowledge of when God has given me a gift to pick something out of the clear blue sky and say it.
Tell me about your children.
We had 3 kids, Ariane, Marshall Jr., and Jason Keith Ferguson.
Do your children have any unique abilities or accomplishments?
Academically, they excel in school. They always enter into scientific awards at the school and win in first place all the time. Academically, they're very accomplished.
Do you have any grandchildren?
Yeah, I got grandkids. I got 5 grandkids, yeah.
What are your other favorite things, like favorite foods, favorite movies, favorite sports?
Well, my favorite sport would definitely be basketball and football and boxing. Those are my 3 favorite sports, okay? And I would probably say I do boxing better than all of them, but I love boxing. I'm real good at that. Oh, yeah, and I talk smack all the time. I talk about how I'm going to dust you, take you out and all that. And I act crazy in there, watch his fist and hit you with that hand. And, oh, no, boxing is my baby.
Who is most important to you?
The most important person is truly my Savior, God. He's the most important person to me right now in my life. Well, I know I was called to minister, to be a minister in the church. But when you're called to be a minister, that's almost like going to the top in the church callings. But what I did was I did every part of the church calling. I taught Bible class, I sang. I was just involved totally in the church. What did I enjoy the most about the calling of the church? I would say the most I thoroughly enjoyed was the calling in the ministry and the calling on helping people by singing and doing different shows and being involved in different assignments in the military. I was blessed, really blessed by being involved in the church work.
How so?
Well, I would direct the choir. I would do Bible study. I would, people having problems, I would go see them. They'd come see me. Counsel. I was really involved in the church work.
Do you feel like there were maybe some years that you strayed from him and the lifestyle you think he would have wanted you to lead, and then he pulled you back, or?
Well, not only do I know that I strayed from him, but I also know that he absolutely have turned me around. Because I used to think being successful was having money, and being out there in the world.
What do you want to accomplish before you leave this earth?
Living a good Christian example life, and to see all my family and grandkids now turn to Christ and give their life to him first. That's what I would love to see.
What's worth fighting for?
Really, nothing. You don't have to fight. Christ approved that. Jesus did all the fighting on Calvary. There's nothing we need to fight for. We just need to accept him and ask him to come in and direct us. There is absolutely no need to fight.
So, like in a martyr situation, when somebody wants you to renounce the name of God, would you renounce him and then repent later?
No, we would not renounce him, period. Under no condition.
So, your Savior's worth dying for.
Always.
What are you most grateful for?
What I'm most grateful for is that Jesus Christ went to Calvary and gave us to redeem us and given us a chance to have eternal life. That's what I'm most grateful for. The fact is that he got me steadfast in my belief of his power, his almighty omnipotent power. That's one thing. The second thing is that nobody have to tell me when the truth is the truth. I know it from having Christ in my heart, that I know when the truth is. No one can say anything. I know what's the truth and what's not the truth. And one thing that I'm saying right now is that if you guys really want to know what the truth is, try Jesus. He'll give you the ability to deal with the truth and hear the truth and know when the truth is being spoken.
What do you want to be remembered for?
What I want to be remembered for really in my life is that I love God with all my heart, all my mind, and all my soul. That I was willing to die for my belief in Christ Jesus as my Savior.
What would you want people to have said at your funeral?
He was a fat fool, but he was all right, But I would want people to say that, well, he tried his best. He made a few mistakes along the line, but he loved God and he's a believer.
What do you want God to say when you get to heaven?
My faithful servant, a job well done. That's what I want God to say to me. If he said that, I'm happy all the way. For anything else to come next, I'm not worried about it. My legacy will be that I love God and I was a true believer. No matter what people say, I'm a true believer in God.